The Mint Commission began in 2008 when I was approached by curator Annie Carlano on behalf of the Mint Museum to create a piece for the new space. My commission was to be one of 10 commissions designed and made specifically for the opening of the new museum. Within my work, it was important that for the museum that they commissioned a new piece, preferably the start of a new body of work, a piece that looked forward to the 21st century. The piece was to be of the 21st century, a piece which represented craft and design in 2010. I created an initial proposal, sketch proposal, based on a concept I had been working on and looking for an opportunity to develop. Looking at movement, exploring movement both in material and movement in how one interacts with the piece. The initial proposal encompassed a console with a compartment on top and the idea of how one would interact with this compartment, how it would open, how the shapes would expose the material, quite a sculptural form. One of the significant developments over the course of the period from that initial sketch to the final resolved piece was how we approached the body of the piece. As we developed the opening compartment and used the elasticity of the wood to stitch these fingers together and use the elasticity of the wood to inform the shape of the opening, it became more apparent that if we could create the continuity between this one strand of wood and the form, it could be quite interesting. Consequently, I took the approach of taking a single log, slicing it into very thin layers, and creating a composition which represented the form of the console. This form was created by reconstructing the layers of wood and bending them freeform relative to the material's own elasticity. So the result is something which has much greater continuity, both in terms of the concept and in terms of the material and the techniques employed with the material. So the result is somewhat of a collaboration between man and the material properties. And this is very evident when one opens the compartment on top and this wood bends and stretches and creates the shape of the opening each and every time one interacts with the piece. Technically, much of the processes employed in making the piece we had explored before or executed in one shape or another. I think what was unique in the realization of the Mint piece was allowing the material to make a greater contribution to the resulting form, and also allowing the material to feed into the mechanisms and using the properties of the material, exploiting that. Almost letting go a little bit as a maker and allowing the material to have a greater contribution. While the development of the piece and the period in between from the initial idea through to the resulting piece and how we resolved it, how we explored the material, how we fed that into the form of the piece, how intriguing it was to use the material to create a composition, both in the overall form of the Enignum Motion, but also in the moving element in the top. While there was a lot of development, and we answered a lot of questions in that whole process and resulted in the completed piece for the Mint Museum, it also presented many questions and leaves much to be explored in the future. And it opens many possibilities of how we can look to employing the material, which from a maker's point of view means letting go a little bit and allowing the material to make a greater contribution or play a greater role in the design process. I think the final piece was an energetic and exciting piece to make, both for me to see it realized, for my team, for makers, through the whole process. I think it's exciting for the user when they approach the piece, the element of surprise, understanding the form, and finally interacting with it and seeing that shape come alive in front of you. It's exciting also to think what it could lead to in the future. I look forward to looking at this piece in years to come and seeing it in the Mint Museum for many, many years.